17 minutes past 8 on this Wednesday morning's OTBM with myself and Adrian. Delighted to welcome to the show this morning the Irish Examiner's John Fallon. Morning, John.
Morning, gents. How are you doing?
Keeping well. You were a busy man yesterday evening. Got this scoop of the reported leaked Irish squad for the World Cup. Confident of your sources?
Wasn't quite leaked now. There was just a few different angles coming. You know, obviously some people were very happy and some people weren't. So just sort of tacking it all together. And some of them were quite really inevitable when you think about it, really, in terms of injury and where we are, like with the countdown to 20th of July. Just the injuries were just too tight in terms of turning them around. We're talking about Aoife Mannion really and Megan Campbell. They're the two, I suppose, who were really struggling for fitness and just didn't have the time really to make it into the final 23. So yeah, we'll know officially, I suppose, later on this morning. But it's unfortunate for the two of those players.
They're two huge blows, aren't they? I mean, of course, as you say, they were struggling for fitness, Aoife with Manchester United and Megan Campbell with Liverpool towards the end of the season, and yet still there was always the hope, I guess, that they'd be fit to make it. But they are two massive absentees.
Yeah, and I suppose the temptation is to keep them in and then just keep it all the way up till, I think they have up to the 19th, up to the eve of the tournament. For them to prove their fitness. But, you know, bear in mind, we're playing Australia, we're playing against Sam Kerr, who's probably the best striker in the world. They're both defenders, particularly Aoife Mannion. She's had a history of knee injuries, unfortunately. Just come out of a knee brace, I think, yesterday. And, you know, the idea of her trying to regain her fitness in the next 3 weeks and keep up with Sam Kerr, just really, when you think about it in just in practical sense, this was never really going to happen. So I think it's best just to call it now, and that's what they've done. And we, thankfully, it's one area we have an abundance of options. And it's unfortunate because Aoife started to declare quite late in terms of, you know, the cycle here. She came in February, did really well in Marbella and looked a big addition. But once we saw her in that brace, I think it was the second last WSL game of the year, she was on the pitch, you know, that was really sending alarm bells. So Vera had seemed quite positive about her potentially making it. It was going to be a really tight call. But just these things, you know, it's just, you just can't really, you know, you can't really take the chance in it. And she is someone, I think our contract at Man United is out as a lapse. So there's other different factors as well. Does she go as a free agent? Are the negotiations of a club going on at the moment, whereby, given her history, she's risking, you know, aggravating that injury? I suppose we'll find out a bit more information today, but I know Vera was quite eager to make the call quite earlier than even she had to do so. And I believe Aoife is in England at the moment, just getting treatment on that injury.
Leanne Kiernan's expected absence, that's huge. And I guess you saw her in the recent game as well, where she maybe didn't look at her best, and we were discussing this morning maybe her relative lack of goal scoring at international level, certainly with Ireland. And even Kathleen McNamee was kind of saying to us this morning, she's never really been a player that Vera Pauw has took a shine to massively.
No, it's just an ankle injury. It's severe. It's coming back, and you're in a department there where you're sort of in the air. Where, you know, Saoirse Noonan played last week. Abby Larkin's there as well. I think Abby's got the nod. So it was going to be a marginal one. You know, we were with the Liverpool players. It was Niamh Fahey and Leanne, who are coming back quite late in the season, very very late in the season. So Leanne just hasn't made it. She just can't really rely on her in terms of delivering her full potential. So again, tight calls, and there's a lot of tight calls in this squad, and it's just people disappointed. And, you know, I believe there was a lot of emotion there yesterday when the calls were made out in UCD. And Leanne, just hopefully, you know, she's quite young. There will be other opportunities. There will be other tournaments in the future that should be back at full fettle for.
she's a player who deserves a break at some point or another. John, just in terms of who might start, and I know we're sort of forwarding on a little bit, but Leanne Kiernan, obviously with the start of the Zambia game, has started plenty of games previously. Does this move Amber Barrett from a position of where we were debating a couple of weeks ago as to whether she's going to be in the squad? Does this move her into the first 11?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think even Amber was engaged in that debate herself, given her lack of club action in Germany, but she's moved on now to Belgium. So she's really put herself in the frame, given the Zambia contribution last week. Like, she already had credit at the bank, with Hampden Park, but I think she's in a great position now, for Australia. There's a few other contenders there, but Amber has always delivered. She's been around a long time, different managers, Vera Bow, Colin Bell, never really let us down. So she sort of had to see off the competition because it was coming from every angle. But last week when she was needed, she produced the goods. So I think she's in a great position, as it stands to lead that forward line.
Some of the other absentees, Jamie Finn being one of them, John, that seems to be another relative shock given her inclusion, certainly for many of the games in the qualification. And like, she started the campaign against Sweden, as you reported yourself, and finished it against Scotland. And you also mentioned her versatility as well, and maybe that's another reason why she is in an unexpected absence, I guess.
Yeah, she's the big one, I think, really. Now, like, when you look back, like, the two home-based players who would have been sort of favourites of Vera would have been Anya O'Gorman and Jamie, and what they had in common was both of them worked as personal fitness trainers, in their full-time jobs, so they had a level of stamina and endurance that really Vera relied on. And she was really one of the go-to players in the campaign. Now, towards the latter stage, she would have drifted a bit, but she was to the point, I think, where they left her out, I think, of the game against Georgia because of fear and suspension. She was that important. But I suppose she's been a bit of a victim of the influx of new players. She sort of was on the margins, but I did not expect her really to be cut from 23 because she's got a great engine. She can play as a holding midfielder. She can play right wing back. But they've just gone for different players in that position, which has been quite a surprise. And I understand she was quite distraught yesterday when it was informed.
Yeah, when we look at Jamie Finn, Harriet Scott, and we believe there'll be a keeper added to that 3, that's possibly going to make up the extra 3, and we could debate the merits or demerits of having 4 keepers in that extended squad. But regardless, there's a few sort of 50-50 calls in terms of some of the names that we expect now to be included. Ciara Grant possibly might be one of those that'll benefit from the Mannion exclusion. Ruisha Littlejohn was somebody who, despite being so dependable over the last couple of years, was maybe in that debate as well. Who do you place in the waking up this morning in the I can't believe I'm in category?
Yeah, I think both of those, Ciara and Ruisha, I think are okay. Same with Lily Agg. So they were players, Ruisha and Lily Agg, who would have had injuries towards the end of the latter stage of the season, but they're in. And the way Vera plays is basically with a back 5 and sort of two screeners in front of them, and they would be major contenders to sit in that role. Ciara Grant likewise. She can play there, and she's been a loyal servant. She's always turned up. She hasn't been quite, prominent in terms of playing minutes, but has always been there, and she's an option. So I'd say there's a few of them, who are breathing a sigh of relief that they probably thought they were borderline, but have got in. Suppose on the, we're talking a lot about the ones who have been left out, but I believe one of the winners in this is Izzy Atkinson, who came in last week in place of Megan Campbell. You heard that story about Megan Campbell relinquishing her room in UCD for Izzy to come in, who wouldn't have been in the initial squad, but she's in, taking her chance. And I know Vera sort of judges on what she sees before her eyes, and has given Izzy the nod. So fair play to her. That's really a seismic kind of elevation from the margins.
Another one of the winners, and you've mentioned her already, is Abby Larkin, 18 years of age. What an achievement this is. Everyone in Ringsend and Shelburne will be buzzing for her. And I remember reading an interview with her parents, Ethel and Robert, recently, where they spoke about having to sign her out of school, when she made her full international debut at 16. So for people like Abby today, I mean, this is just a career highlight, isn't it? An extraordinary achievement, and great to see a home-based player as well being included.
Yeah, like when you look, she's sort of shaded players who are based in England, and I don't think we'll see much of, I don't think she'll be here much longer. I think there's plenty of clubs that are in for it at the moment. So with the transfer window opening, I think Abby will be on the move. But she has that pace, that can stretch defences. So maybe not as a starter, but someone who can come on and give different options and be versatile. Again, you talk about the winners category. Abby's in there, and deservedly so.
What was the crack in Knocknaheeny last night?
With Denise, yeah. Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Yeah. Myself and Dylan from the Echo went up to Knocknaheeny to see the farewell, and at a time of football, I suppose, is being dragged through the mud in terms of sports washing and, all the things that are going on. It would really warm your heart to what you saw last night. She's the ultimate sort of working class hero who sort of come really from the school of hard knocks, and the send off she got was incredible. You had a huge turnout, and as some of her family said, like, Denise had never forgotten where she came from, and we know about Roy Keane's Mayfield's roots, but Denise equally in the north side of Cork is the female equivalent, and she's one of the last players into the camp due to her commitments in North Carolina Courage, where she's captain. But she's going to be a big player for us, and it's probably long overdue that she's playing on this stage, because she really is, I suppose along with Katie, she is our world class player. So it's great to see her, and she was in great form.
I should mention, I mentioned Shelburne, of course, for Abby Larkin's origins. She is, of course, with Shamrock Rovers now, so I'd be killed if I didn't mention them as well. Adrian touched on it there, John, the goalkeeper situation. So 3 goalkeepers expected to be included, and then one further as one of these 3 additional non-playing members. Was this expected that Vera might opt for 4 keepers essentially?
Yeah, I think that was that was from the Soundboys last week. I think the goalkeeping coach, Jan, I think he likes to work with 4 goalkeepers.
Right.
So like the 3 we call them standby players. They're not really they're only coming in terms of sort of a medical emergency. So they're really training players. Seems a bit odd to me now, I have to say. I had 4 goalkeepers. Whatever about losing 1 goalkeeper to a red card or an injury, you're not going to need 3 more. So I think it's quite a strange move, but yeah, that's what they'd seem to have gone for. I think Sophia Whitehouse might be the 4th one there. So, but I think it's more given the sort of the long lead in what you have. It's more in terms of preparation than training games.
Briefly, John, before we let you go, we should mention that we mentioned it before you came on, but Dan McDonnell writing on the Irish Independent this morning about Stephen Kenny, saying he will get the chance to bring the Republic of Ireland into September's Crunch qualifiers against the French and the Dutch. So of course there was that regular monthly meeting of the FAI board that took place last night. And of course his future was one of the topics on the agenda, but this perhaps no surprise that Stephen Kenny will get the chance, but I guess it puts his mind at ease.
Yeah, I was on different topics last night, but I heard the board meeting dragged on quite long, but not a surprise. I think had Gibraltar maybe gone a bit sour, we could be looking at a different conversation this week. But yeah, that seems to be the case. It's going to roll on to September, maybe with some contingency in place should the worst happen there. So really not a surprise.
Yeah, absolutely. John, great stuff as always. Thanks for hopping on.
Thank you.
Brilliant stuff, John Fallon there of the Irish Examiner.